How you doing?
You said we said laid up in the beef.
Mr.
And she wouldn't care if we exceeded expectations. She would still do her best to hurt our students. And she intentionally keeps coming for us. And the union continuously supports us and makes sure she know her money. She clearly needs something else to do. She needs to find a job that supports her own selfish needs. It's so weird that folks that will never live in our neighborhoods always got something to say. Find something in your neighborhood. Let's show her together that we are a union and call her bluff. As we know, we're not afraid of it. We're not afraid of this provisional because what we're going to keep doing is keep educating our kids every day. We're going to still get up, still stay late, still use our money, still beg y'all for money, and we're still going to help. We're still a village at the end of the day. So no matter what she's saying or what she's trying to do, we're not going to let her. That's why we have to make sure that we all are on one accord. No matter what a standardized test says about your baby, don't believe it. They don't. St. Louis American newspaper. St. Louis is
No,
St. Louis
CJ.
Black Week.
A phone to go.
She is on the editorial board of the Black Commentator, and she is a
So we may have to wait for her to finish talking because I think she's talking over.
years in the capital city and LA Progressive. She has authored many articles for both local and national
Yeah,
publications.
so we'll see when she get done talking. Okay.
She is currently
That might be it.
you're the co-founder. Okay, so she is currently the co-founder of her organization, and she likes to educate us. She likes to make sure that we're having conversations that include everybody. She's trying to make sure that she's reaching not only the people that have been there before, but the people like me that are coming through it, and the people that are under me that are coming to this place. So I want you all to give a huge welcome as she takes the stage, and she's gonna show us a few things. She's gonna have a conversation with us, and however she has us do, we're gonna do it because she's the person that we're gonna listen to. Please give a big shout out to Mrs. Shamala Rogers.
Good evening and happy Black History Month. Come on, y'all. As we know, Black History is a month, but that doesn't mean it's confined to the month, right? We don't practice the certain year. So I've been given about the same amount of time that Bad Bunny had at the Super Bowl. So I'm gonna do my best to live up to that challenge, but I'm gonna need your help. So let's do it. Cramming in a lot of stuff in those few minutes. And so there's times when I can't go deeper into a particular issue. And when that happens, I'm going to say, and I want you to say research. Do your, okay, you might be people outside when you're talking to them that are talking smack or talking stuff that they don't know anything about. Go do your. So I was asked to talk about Team 4. And some people might be saying, well, what does Team 4 have to do with schools? The fact of the matter is, Team 4 is about neighborhoods. Teachers are connected to schools. Schools are connected to what? Neighborhoods. So, or at least they used to be, because I think about the ward that I organized in, the old 22nd ward. And when, even 30 years ago, there were 6 schools in that ward. There's now 1. That's Laclede School. The rest of them are still there, but they are abandoned. Hempstead School looks like the roof was blown out by a bomb. They look bad. So if anything that talks about destabilization, you know that schools are the anchors. So there's a long and treacherous history of racism not only in this city, but in this country. So what we know now, and what we probably always known, is that housing patterns and housing discrimination are not some serendipitous, disconnected plan. From the 1916 ballot initiative to the Negro removal plan of Mill Creek, to the failed Pruitt-Igoe public housing project, to the Team 4 scheme, city planners, in cahoots with other stakeholders, have worked tirelessly for decades to contain Black and poor people. The intentional disinvestment and planned abandonment of entire sections of neighborhoods has had a devastating consequence. Leading up to the 50s, the 1950s, some of y'all too young to remember that, the federal government and its co-conspirators were challenged with the question of what to do with poor people, especially Black and brown poor people. The concept of urban renewal became code for Negro renewal. The public-facing government agency responsible for government funding housing was the Urban Housing and Urban Development HUD. The irony of this situation that in 1950, y'all, the St. Louis population had reached its peak of 850,000. And I say reached its peak because city fathers obviously thought they were going to continue to grow and we would be one of the booming metropolises.
Saying that they can hear the conversations.
And so today, the city population is fixed at about 280,000. That's pathetic. That's how people are leaving, how fast people are leaving. In the early 1950s, the biggest public housing project was constructed in St. Louis. It was named after Wendell Pruitt and William Igoe. Black folks were supposed to live in Pruitt, white folks were supposed to live in Igoe. If you don't know who Wendell Pruitt and William Igoe are, you need to go do the. But I want you to imagine 50 acres with 33 buildings, 11 stories high. That's a small town, y'all. That was Pruitt-Igoe. It was the biggest housing development at the time in the country. And it became known as the biggest failed housing endeavor ever. And there are many studies and books who validate that. Demolition started in 1972, and the final demolition was in 1976. The rumblings about a Team 4 plan began to surface in 1974. Concerned citizens, and I would say some of the elders in the community, began to meet at the Clifford Wilson Community Center located in the 4th Ward. What they did, to their credit, is they reached out to the younger organizers and activists like myself and say, you all need to hear what this is about, because you all need to be a part of the struggle against this insidious plan. And we heard it and we said, wow, you know, this is news. So we became the people in the community telling the story about Team 4, what was about to happen to our neighborhoods. And, you know, people still had some amount of faith in our government. And so it was hard to convince some people that this was going to happen. Even saying that in the future, Homer G. Phillips would have to be closed as part of an anchor in that community. So we did our due diligence and we were able to beat back the plan itself from being implemented. But I have to tell you, that was not the end of the story, because like other plans that these folks have, it's like a chameleon. It comes back in a different forms, and we still see Team 4 plan today. In 2008, then U.S. Representative William Clay, along with Maxine Waters, decided that they wanted to have a hearing in St. Louis about the Team 4 plan, because obviously the manifestations were still going on. They tried to round up as many people that they could from the 70s who were part of beating back Team 4, and I was called to testify. And I remember vividly, this was under the Francis Slade regime, and Barbara Geisman, who people might remember was the guru of development, also came to testify. And when she was asked if she was familiar with the Team 4 plan, if she had read it, she said it was not, quote, relevant. So that's the kind of insensitivity that we've seen across the board when it comes to housing for working and poor people. So you had groups like the Ad Hoc Committee, the Coalition Against Team 4, who continue to work on that until, again, that particular plan was put in the drawers. And again, it's continued. I want to stop now and ask Jay to start a video, and some of you might have seen it. It's a 4-part series called Benign Neglect. And in this particular segment, it's going to talk about Team 4 and the categories that were given to those communities. So Jay, let it roll.
Essentially.
Now, if you want to see more of that, there's 4 series. It's on YouTube. You can go there. So you want to do your and find out the other elements that lead up to the destabilization of our neighborhoods. So what we see from 1950 on is a plethora of co-conspirators. They are elected officials, they are developers, the real estate association, and I'm not talking about your favorite realtor that found you that nice deal on the house. I'm talking about the realtor association. Okay, there's a difference. Even the Catholic Church was a part of this. So when we start to look at covenants, when we start to look at redlining, when we start to look at eminent domain, all of these players had a role, an important role. And so oftentimes people don't understand the invisible nature of all this is going on, and they're doing their best once they buy a house to keep it fixed up, to make the repairs, to do all that's necessary, and they never can quite get it together. And I liken it to being sucker punched in the dark, and you don't know where it came from. If you go to wards like the old 22nd, and I have to say the former 22nd because I'm still trying to get the new boundaries together, you can stand on a corner and look 5 blocks down, empty lots. If you don't have housing, you all, where do people go? Where did all those people, and the 22nd ward had the most vacant lots. They also had the most residents leaving. So every census, we could account for 5,000 to 10,000 people leaving that ward. So when you have that and you have no schools, you don't have anchors, what do you think happens? People have to go elsewhere. So not only is the sense of cohesion gone, it also is diluting and scattering Black political power. And that's the thing that some of these elected officials don't seem to understand. If you don't have a constituent base, you can't get elected. You know, and this has been hard to communicate to them. But I would say they have been co-conspirators because along the way, there have been programs like the Empowerment Zone, where we were getting all this federal money to what? Improve the North Side. The North Side looks worse today than it ever has looked. And many folks didn't know the difference between what the May 16th tornado had done and what had already been demolished. You couldn't tell the difference. So we got some issues here, and that's why the fight for our neighborhood public schools is so important. It is so important because if you don't have that, people got to go elsewhere. When you look at those realtor things, and my brother coming up after me is going to tell you, when you look at those realtor pages, they got a list of the schools that's in that neighborhood. They got what this district is about. That's what people are looking for. So you all saw that, and now it's time for your quiz. Oh, some of y'all know I used to be a public school teacher, which I think was gonna happen. Okay. So there were 3 areas. One was depletion, one was conservation, and one was redevelopment. And so it's pretty obvious which each one of those means. They explained it. So I have some intersections. I have some neighborhoods. And so I want you to tell me, you can just shout it out. I don't mind shouting it out. If they are depletion, conservation, or redevelopment. So here we go. Grand and North Florissant. Louder! Redevelopment. Oh shit, I already said. Okay, forget that. Floral Place. Conservation, you keep those nice neighborhoods. Forest Park and Sarah. Redevelopment. St. Louis Avenue and Goodfellow. Depletion. Portland Place. Conservation. Laclede Landing. Vanderbilt and Dr. King Drive. Kennerly and Annie Malone Drive. Now, those 2 were really trick questions, y'all, because there has been some valiant efforts on the part of those folks who live there or who used to live there to keep those alive. And so for the DeVille has been active, really trying to get monies and restore some of the lost grandeur of that community. And you have people like Carla Alexander and her crew at Jeff Van Loo trying to do what they have. So the key is you gotta fight for what you want. And in those areas, they haven't been completely depleted, but they're on the list. But there's citizens that said not on our watch. So you did good. You get to go to the front of the class. Thank you for listening. So I was told that you all can ask me questions before Antoine comes up. So I think the mics are live, and if you can, so everybody can hear you. Is it on? Jay, are the mics on? Yes, he said they're on. So anybody over there know about mics? She's talking, but it's nothing coming. Hello?
Areas that were considered depleted, renovated, and conservation. So did it shift the thinking or what? You know, the effect of the tornado, because it hit some areas that would have been considered for redevelopment, but did the devastation and lack of dollars affect it?
So I think in some ways it accelerated particularly for the north side of what was not going to happen, where the dollars were not going to go. And if you drive through now, you see many of those houses still have tarp on them. They still are struggling. And it's doubtful, this is me talking, that any recovery dollars will ever come their way. If you look at the Central West End, some parts of that was severely damaged. Some of those buildings are going to come down, and some of them are already starting to come down. If you go to areas on Lindell where the mansions are, they've already, started their renovation. They got this is the first time I saw this, those white tops that fit real snug on the roofs. I only see the rich people with those, so they must cost a lot of money. But those folks almost immediately were able to get trees up because they got their own private money. They didn't have to depend on the city. So I think it still boils down to those areas of depletion, conservation, and redevelopment. And I think we'll see that play out in the months and years to come. We're going to be here 10 years and North St. Louis is going to pretty much look the same, except for those people who have the wherewithal and want to stay to rebuild. And let me just say this about rebuilding, because I've heard people on the news say, I want to stay here. And there might be 2 houses on that block. And I'm thinking, where's the community going to be? You got 1 house on that block. But again, this is about planning, city planning, urban development. And I don't know where those people are, but I haven't seen them for a very long time, because you got a whole city with a depletion of population where you basically could rebuild and have affordable housing for folks. But we have not had affordable housing in any significant way in this city for a long, long time. So I think that speaks to the whole effort to push people out. And the city is dying. They want to act like it's crime, but it's not. It's not that. It's like there's no place to live. They want to blame the schools as being bad and deplorable. So then when people start looking, they're going to skip over St. Louis. I think there's another question here, but thank you for that question.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that in 1968, 1970, we had 82 children on our block in the 5200 block. We had 12 children, yes, family, 12, 14. We had 8, 74. They bust us out of our community at that time to Buddha School on the south side. They bust us to Oak Hill on the south side. And now it's a situation where the way you destroy a community, first you have to destroy the educational system. And so what they start doing is taking resources away. I played in the band. All I had was school pride because I wasn't that popular in school. So I was in the band. We had bands and we had girl glee clubs. We had all this kind of stuff. They don't have that stuff. That's the main issue. We need our resources back. I'm not going to send my son to a school that the football team only had 9 players last year. They lost 72-9 to a school that was from Winsfield somewhere. They eliminate those things where they paying young men to go to college to play sports. Now you eliminate the sports out of school. So where are you going to send your children? So when they take resources away from Sodan, and now they close Sodan, and they say they can't open it because they're waiting for historical windows. Well, we don't know how long that's going to take. They haven't told us, So they're keeping us in the dark. But what they did do this, they took Clark School. We had them kids in school, and they took our schools and they made them. Gentrifiers came in, and they took our elementary school that was right there on the corner. And then they took our middle school that was across the street and they turned them into apartment buildings. Now they're trying to take our recreational center, the old, Demetrius Johnson building that we've been fighting for, that the Jews donated to us for $1 in 1968. I found the deed that said it was supposed to go for a community center, and now the people near the Delmar Vine, I know they're trying to take it from us. 20 office spaces, you got 2 indoor, I mean, I'm just saying, this is community. 2 full court gyms, 2 handball courts. You got 20 offices, and on the top, back in the 60s, they had weddings and stuff. The city gave away a jewel. They didn't even want to invest it in the ARPA funds, was saying that they could invest the ARPA funds in those communities, but they didn't because it was a Black community. Infrastructure in the ARPA funds, they set aside money for recreational centers, but they don't want to give us anything. They want to take everything from us. And, you know, the schools is the way you do it, because that's why people that start moving, we lost our voting base and everything in the city because of the schools that's been closed. So that's why we fight for the schools. And I just want to tell people that don't know, that school across the street, Dunbar, is what the JPL is fighting for. They can put 500 students in that school. They can walk right across the street and follow each other to Bashan, and they can walk down the street to a college. But they don't want to do that. That's too much like right, because they don't want to see us with education. All these educated people on the school board can't understand 1, 2, 3. They can't get it. All the time they went to school, they don't understand. Put the resources over in Dunbar. Put it over there. So them children, I didn't go to college. I followed. I didn't know anything about, we came from the South. I followed my girlfriends to college. So this is what we do. If you put it over there, and they sort of follow each other over here, and they follow each other over there. We had a young lady that was 7 years old at a protest, and she was crying because she couldn't find her best friend or her teacher the next year because they had moved them out. So this is the things that we up to. This is the challenges we are up to, and the Team 4 plan is really, it did a minute.
And I know a lot of times when people see a situation like that, I hear people say Team 4, that lets me know that they know about that plan. Because you actually see it in real time. What's happening? What you just, nobody's got a name for. You take away grocery stores, you take away schools, you take away, even our churches are shuttering on the north side. Why? Because when you talk about redlining and you talk about insurance higher, because the risk is supposed to be much higher, then that's when you really price people out. Benign neglect. And for the developers and the folks who are planning how the city is going to look, they often look at it through a racial and class lens, which means that Black people and poor people have to be, contained or removed. That is the only way that white people are going to feel safe and secure. And so I think when the numbers come out based on the tornado, you will see that we've lost significant more population, Black population, based on that. And then, they talked about the schools. The schools, and this is a conversation I had with Dr. Adams when they were getting ready to close many schools, and most of them were on the north side. And the question is, you all got people who are determining population and projecting what schools may have to close based on attendance and participation. So why is it y'all wait to the last minute when people can't do anything about saving these schools, and the folks on the south side get the news and they start planning? So you hardly see any abandoned schools on the far south side. They've repurposed them. We got schools that we had put money in based on, bonds. And I remember right after one bond, and they put air conditioning in school. And then the next time we turn around, those schools were closed. And we went, whoa. They were just paid to put some air conditioning. So it's just crazy. And we know that the air conditioning was somebody's friend. And so they got paid big bucks to put the air conditioners in. So what difference does it make? They're making money off of black bodies left and right. Any other questions?
Yes.
Oh,
Ms. Jamala Rogers, as you are the founding partner of the Organization for Black Struggle, as you wrap up, what is the ask for us in the community?
the ask of the community that actually, CJ, you pointed some of this out in your introduction, is that we gotta wake up, stay woke. We have to know what's going on around us. We have to hold the people who we are paying to serve and protect us. We got to hold them accountable. So these people are sitting at desk, whether it be down at 1200 Market, whether it be in Jeff City, whether it be in DC. That's our tax dollars, y'all. But we can't seem to get them to do what we need because they see us as unorganized. So we got to organize better. We got to hold them accountable. When we see them, we need to be asking questions. What's happening with the tornado money? I know I've been doing it, and there's a lot of stammering and stuttering. And then I found out that the tornado money is there, but hasn't been released. We're coming up on almost a year, y'all. And even if you weren't a victim of the tornado, you know that there were people who were, and we need to help them. We need to help them. We need to add our voices to that struggle because they can't do it alone. Many of them are suffering post-traumatic stress. Let's just be clear, because natural disasters do that. So you got a weakened community that can't speak for themselves. We have to help rally around that, asking not only their elected officials, but ours too, because they're part of the body down there at the Board of Alders. Where's the money? What do we need to do to get it released? The folks in Jeff City did their part. They added some more millions to it, and it's still sitting. So stay woke, be engaged, be informed. That's the most you can do in this day and age when people are trying to cause confusion, misinformation, and divisiveness. That's what we do to stay steady, y'all. Thank you.
We always love Miss Jamala for her knowledge. As Jay queues up for Ray Cummings to come and give his little few minute spiel before Mr. Antoine Lawrence come up, I want to specifically shout out these people. Mr. Jimmy, state rep and his appearance. Wait, Mr. Jimmy. Mr. John Bowman, he is the director of the North County NAACP. He waved earlier, but he's a candidate for the state senate. Mr. Bowman, raise your hand. Mr. David Bryant, I think he's outside talking, but Mr. David Bryant, he is a candidate for St. Louis County prosecutor. When he comes back, or if you see him in passing, you can speak with him. Mr. Mike Butler, raise your hand. He's the recorder of deeds and he's an AFT member. Mr. Peter Downs, former president of the school board, raise your hand. Miss Velma Bailey, former alderperson AFT member, please raise your hand. Mr. Tracy Heights, present school board member. Last but not least, raise your hand, brother. I just like to always point out the village. And these people have been in these spaces way before we even came to these spaces and are still supporting them. So make sure that you reach out to your village and that you know what's going on in your village. Jay, would you please cue in Mr. Ray Cummings? I see you pointing on what that means. Does that mean you did it? Thank you.
Hello, hello.
Hey, boss man.
Hey, everybody. Wake up, everybody. I'm broadcasting live from MOBAP Emergency Room, but I didn't want to miss this evening's activity. We're here to learn a lot, and I just want to start off by saying we're on number 6 Education Summit. Just seemed like just yesterday we had the first summit on tips and tax abatements. Since that time, tips and tax abatements have begun to slow up to a trickle because people, when you shine that light on on folks, they began to scurry like you know who. So I'm just so happy now that developers come to our office at Local 420. And you know what they talk to us about? They talk about how much money they want to invest in the school system, how much they want to invest in the city. And they come in because we're reaching out to them and we're reaching out to their humanity. Second thing I want to have something to say about is if you love St. Louis Public Schools, make some noise.
What?
I am a proud graduate of St. Louis Public School, and we know that we have been deprived of our fair share of revenue to the tune of $29 million last year. And that's and being deprived of those resources, there's no way that you can build a 21st century school district. And that is our goal. I want everyone to know Miss CJ, who facilitates these. When people were running around talking about Mr. Chester Asher and Adolphus Pruitt from the NAACP were running around criticizing teachers because they wasn't teaching people to read. We didn't criticize, we rolled up our sleeve. We started taking kids on collaborations to the library. We start paying pre-K parents to read to their kids. Why? Because society doesn't value reading as a whole. But we're going to roll up our sleeves and get this job done. And Miss CJ has been running our St. Louis Public Library collaboration as well as our family collaboration with pre-K parents over at Jefferson School. Another thing I want to touch on, ladies and gentlemen, have you noticed that every time they close a St. Louis public school, up pops a charter school from Opportunity Trust? And folks running around talking about their buildings are not full to capacity. Well, when I went by my good friend Mike Jones' place down there in the old school there on Kings Highway, they didn't have but about 58 students in there. Nobody's talking about what's going on over there. We got to wake up, everybody. Something is going on. We're moving our public schools out there, moving their charter schools in. And it's just a problem. You got Maxine Build-A-Bear Clark over there telling people at her little cocktail parties about just go on and close those schools because of the tornado. Maxine, you didn't ever go down there and serve a meal. You probably didn't drive down Natural Bridge or say nothing to nobody over there. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Right.
I'm not going to belabor you, but what I'm going to say is we're not going to stop with these education summits, ladies and gentlemen, until we get what we want, and that's a 21st century school system. I'm just going to give you a little preview. I am once again issuing a public challenge to Eric Scroggins, who became a millionaire off black children, never read a book to a black kid, never been in a school with black children or nothing else. I'm issuing a challenge to debate with him. If you don't know who he is, he's that guy came to town with a suitcase in his hand, a pauper. Now he's a millionaire. I challenge him. I challenge my good friend Fred Williamson. He was already a millionaire before they hijacked him over there because he wants to be a good guy, and they want to just burn down the St. Louis Public School. And I'm challenging my good friend Bishop Mike Jones to come on this stage at Bashan High School and have a debate about public education and the kind of crap that they're doing where they're pimping black kids. Yeah, that's what I said. Public education is an issue, but it's only issue in urban neighborhoods where they have those large budgets for the schools. And they come in like vultures and locusts, and they pick the place clean, and then they move on to other places. So once again, I'm issuing that public challenge, and I'll have on my team, my wingman, probably Steve Hill, maybe even the superintendent. But let me name them again, so make no mistake about it. Sometimes we get so we don't want to name any names. Well, I'm naming names right now. Eric Scroggins, Fred Williamson, and my other good friend, the good Bishop. And come on and debate us on why you got a better mousetrap, because we got a better one. Thank you for coming, and God bless you all.
Recap. Eric Scroggins, Maxine Clark, Keith Williamson, Bishop Mike Jones. He's calling you off of the carpet for a debate. And he's been calling Eric Scroggins off since I've been in the school district.
And
Eric ain't
Maxine,
said nothing.
and Maxine Clark can come too if she like.
They all can come and they can be against Ray and you will kill it, boss.
I'm ready for him.
Thank you, President Cummings. Everybody give President Cummings a hand. We really appreciate you. We're praying for you over here, President Cummings.
Wake up, everybody. Wake up.
This next gentleman I am bringing to the stage is Mr. Antoine Lawrence. Mr. Antoine Lawrence is, let me just first say, I don't know him personally, but I've been stalking him on Google and LinkedIn, and the man know what he's talking about. Okay, so he's from the West Side. He was a part of the DSEG. I know we was talking about Ms. Cox was talking about DSEG earlier. His stories, they are to educate, they are to enlighten, and he wants to just have an impact on the culture and what he's trying to do within the city. So his goal is to revive the North Side, educate and rebuild. And he also has a person that's behind the camera with him. And I can't wait to meet this man because I bet his story is amazing to just be filming Mr. Lawrence telling his story on the different sides of the city. 2 town halls, we played one of his videos, but today you'll see a few of them. And if you would like to see more, just connect with him before he leaves when it's time to go. And then he can put you in that space. But his Mr. Andre Combs, Mr. DC, as he likes to be called, he is North Side. Shout out to the people from the North Side. You cool, Mr. Lawrence, because you're from the West Side, but it's something else about the North Side. I know, right? And his mom still lives in the North Side. So not only has he been vested in it, he's still vested in it. It's always lovely to hear the people that are in the community invested into the community doing something for the community. So the question that I want to ask him before he finishes or when he gets done, the ask, how can we be that same change and that impact that you are in the community? What can we do as the other individuals in the community to support that? So when I looked on his page, and when I say I know what I feel like I know he know what he's talking about. He has had property. To me, by seeing this video, he's an activist, right? But he's also a realtor and he is an advisor. He's an agent. He's a financial consultant. And I don't know if this number might have changed, but in total, he's sold or leased about 515 properties in total, 499 residential. That's what resonates with me. You're trying to support those residential spaces and bring communities back to the community instead of putting us out to build big corporations. Now, we know in the community, we need a little bit of everything. We get it, right? But we also get that you can't keep putting us out because you want to keep building things like the NGA, and that's all you want to build. The NGA on this corner, Target on this corner, and nobody else living in the community. So as he comes up, I would like for you all to please give him a warm welcome as he takes our stage. And Jay, please kind of coordinate with him and see how this is going to go. Questions, comments, concerns, allow outbursts. He'll be ready to take them after he's finished. Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, Mrs. CJ, for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, my name is Antoine Lawrence. I'm a local real estate broker. I do a few things, as Mr. CJ said. But the purpose of me being here today is to talk about some of the things I see in my normal day of work. As being a real estate agent and servicing pretty much the whole metropolitan area, you see things every day when you drive through them. You know, you start to realize and think about how did they get these, like how did they get to this point? Whether you're in St. Louis City or county. And I thought that, you know what, I maybe need to share some of the things that I see in my day-to-day work, and also things in history that can maybe inspire action, inspire change for people who love St. Louis. I want to first give a shout out and thank you to Mr. Cummings for reaching out to me to come speak to you all today. It's very humbling, to say the least, and yeah, I'm just thankful to be here. Jay, do you mind going to the first slide? Okay. So what I'm going to talk to you guys today is about the story of North St. Louis and why these stories matter. Next slide, Jay, please. So a little bit more background on who I am. Again, I'm a St. Louis native. I've spent the first 13 years of my life living in St. Louis City, as you said, the West Side. My childhood home, which is a crazy story, was my grandmother's house. She is a Vashon graduate. Half of my family were Vashon graduates. The other half were Sumner. So my grandmother is watching today. If you want to speak, I'm sure she's happy that I'm here. In terms of community advocacy, I cut my teeth in the real estate business, servicing the north side and west side of St. Louis City, and spending my day-to-day life in those communities. I figured that, you know, telling the story of how they are and how they got there and how we can implement change will probably be the most inspiring for other people, regardless of, you know, what their walk of life is. I am a real estate broker. I do own a real estate company. I've been licensed as a real estate broker for almost 13 years now. So I enjoy what I do, but the greatest impact on my life right now is the spreading of information and the right information. I am a huge advocate for doing the research, and lately that's really what inspired me most. Okay, I created a series. It's called basically telling the story of North St. Louis, which I'm gonna share a few videos and go into the reason why I do those things. But again, it's using to educate the masses and not exploit. In my 13-year career in the real estate industry, I've been very blessed, and the greatest return I've got on that investment is, again, enlightening people. And I think there's a lot of value to it. I'm sorry, so what I mean by one-dimensional narratives is I think that's not a color thing. I think that if you talk to anyone from St. Louis, or the greater mass of people from St. Louis, they all gonna give you the same thing when they think about the North Side. They think about neglect, right? That's a one-dimensional narrative, but there's also beauty in it. There's beauty that could become of it. And I try to change that narrative for my storytelling. I'm a huge advocate of history. And when I say history, I will be honest, is the history not told by the victor. What I mean by that is I like to find history from those who the oppressed, from people who didn't get to win end result. That's always been something that has inspired me in my own personal education as a kid. All right. One of the other things I like to do is educate responsibly. And what I mean by that is just telling them the whole truth and nothing but the truth, based on research. I think that the people who built the communities, especially in North St. Louis, don't get the recognition that they deserve. Okay, so one of the things in my storytelling I like to do is to make sure that you tell the full story and highlight the people, why they did this, or you know what type of impact they had and how they can make a change. So this first video we're going to show is I created, and I didn't think that it would have this type of impact. I just did this to share some of the research that I've done personally. And based on doing that, I just got the drive to create more and more content. So I do want to tell you all, just to give a brief warning, these videos I made were made from passion. So not in the what I say, but you may hear some profanity in the lyrics. These lyrics help inspire me. Generally speaking, most of the songs I've used in creating these videos were for someone that's actually from the North Side. So you could feel the passion, what inspired him to tell people about what's going on. Taking part of the Thank you. So the connection with the Harrison School is actually, as being a real estate broker, I have that building for sale. And when I walked that building, those are the things I thought about as I walked it. If anyone is familiar with Bear and Greenlee, North St. Louis Fairground Park, you understand that the area has been depleted. That's to say the least. It wasn't impacted by the tornado, so to speak, but it looks like it was. When I went and toured that property, I brought some people with me. People that were from the area, people that weren't from the area, and I asked them, what would you think? How do you think the impact of the school closing did for the area? Well, how can I showcase that in terms of selling real estate? This is one of the reasons why I made the video, is to show what happened to it, but also with further parts of the series to show how we can make it better. I'm a huge advocate of public education, as you see, especially what happened recently with schools that are being closed this year in City. I think that that's going to negatively impact, and it already has negatively impacted the neighborhoods. The purpose behind the work, of course, promote informed investment, encourage community pride, bridge history with solutions, and amplify neighborhood voices. Some key lessons from that video is neighborhood decline is not random, which we talked about already with the Team 4 plan. Policies and disinvestments that shape today, that shape back then, still shape today. Talk about schools and neighborhoods being inseparable, and community instability directly impacting schools. So how do we continue the conversation? We're building our schools begins with understanding our history, which is one of the things I try to highlight in the videos I create. What I'm going to talk about next is I'm continuing the conversation to show you part 2 of that video. So Jay, if you wouldn't mind playing that for me. part two series of a video, I start to go a little bit more into how it got there. The video I have, I made these for social media. So if anyone knows, social media is more of a short form content. I have longer videos that give out a little bit further in depth that are on my YouTube page, which I'll share. These videos are made short just to get the message across. At the end, Ascend Real Estate Advisors is the name of our real estate company. And if you go to some of the social media pages, even the LinkedIn pages, you'll see that there's a concerted effort to bring about change. And again, this part of the series is more about educating, but what's most important, in my opinion, is how do you take action? You know, the education is not doing action, right? You have to make changes. One of the things I'm doing with the Harrison School right now is working with local developers to seek action and make a change. In terms of investing and making future plans to improve the area. It's not simple. All right, so this final video is going to talk more about the Team Forward plan. It's somewhat of a, again, abbreviated version. The short form content in today's social media age is people have low attention spans. So when I make this video is maybe 3 or 4 years old. I was a lot younger than I am today. So please excuse the profanity, but again, it came from passion. All right. So it's clear the intention is there. Now, how do we, how do you promote action? What can you do to inspire change and redevelop? Next slide, Jim. So why does this matter today? Yeah, it happened in the past. So what can you do about it today? Where does it start? My personal opinion is it starts with rebuilding the St. Louis public schools. It requires rebuilding communities they serve. And by rebuilding, I mean that's a consensus effort for people to understand that these public schools are doing a good job. It's to change the misconception of good money, but also it's to inspire change that people can help further develop these goals and initiatives. Moving forward, understanding history is the first step, but also restoration requires collaboration. So what does that mean by St. Louis? I think a greater St. Louis will be a St. Louis that collaborates, that sees the greater good of all areas having improvement, all walks of life having improvement in education, improvement in resources, improvement in amenities. But of course, it's not that. Investing, this is something that hits pretty deep with me in terms of my career, what I've done in real estate. The clients I've built over the past 13 years have mostly been investors, and these are investors that don't live here. So what I've seen in my career of 13 years is there's a lot of hope and inspiration for people who don't know anything about St. Louis. But why do we have it here where people don't have the same? Why does it take people with outside sources to spur the economic development areas that people think are undeserved? Why can't we have it? That's the goal of telling these histories and stories, to inspire people to see the change, see the things that may not necessarily be from one's back or in the news. It's also a respect for people. I feel like North St. Louis is home and it's a great place to be. But I think it's going to take a greater effort for everyone to feel the same way. And in my career, another thing I realized is too, people are, I guess for lack of better terms, they assume that you're a product of your environment. And what I mean by that, even with me in the real estate industry, if I'm selling homes in North St. Louis, that's all I care about. Again, for the greater St. Louis, in my opinion, it's going to be collaboration and inspiring change in all walks of life. You may have a problem with a certain area in terms of amenities, or you may have problems in terms of racial disparities. There's problems everywhere, but as a greater good for the people, we have to inspire each other to do better. And hopefully, as I can continue to make these videos, especially generating buzz about North City, it inspires change from within. Because most of my clients right now who invest in North City, 90% of them don't live here. So how can we invest in the North Cities and how can we make a change? If you don't mind, Jay, going back to that previous slide, one thing we said. Yeah. All right. So we're building North St. Louis. I do partner with a local person who is actually doing new construction in the old North St. Louis neighborhood. And this person is the person that has money to do the investment, but for them, it's not all about dollars and cents. I think to inspire change is something we all have to think about as well. It's not always about what the bottom line is. This person that's from the community came back to invest in the community and rebuild, and they're starting in Old North St. Louis. I'm not going to show the video. I'll send that link to everyone here. That video has gotten a lot of publicity lately. It has like over 100,000 views or so, but it sparks a lot of interest in terms of people seeing the development and their growth. And sometimes, you have to live by, if you build it, they will come. And I'm proud to be a part of this organization that is doing that. They are building new homes in Old St. Louis. There's a mix, so we can have a conversation about that later in terms of the type of housing stock. But I'm really proud of and proud to be a part of that. Next slide, please. So this is everything I said before. The reason why I have a picture of the suburban community, because I do believe, hopefully in my lifetime, that there could be a change in North St. Louis can look like that. That is the goal. It is a personal goal of mine. I do own property myself in North St. Louis. I plan on hopefully inspire change block by block. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to open it up to questions.
Is this thing on? Okay. I'm Gloria Nolan. I am a product of North City, St. Louis, product of St. Louis Public Schools, Beaumont High School, go Blue Jackets. We got some Blue Jackets in the room. And my family and I, we live in the 4100 block of Sacramento. Our house was damaged by the tornado. We are rebuilding. We are rebuilding. So the way things actually worked out for us, we are doing a new construction build. So you might want to come over and check it out.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe promote some other houses that might be vacant on our streets and possibly sell those. But we are going back and we are redeveloping our duplex as well. It is worth something. It is worth something. We purchased the lot on the corner of our street before the tornado actually happened. And now that's where we're building the new home. So we are committed, and we are strong, and the people that live there are worth something. So I'm really glad. I've seen your videos. I'm really glad to see them. They just stir me up, and I appreciate you getting the word out. And we're gonna be here, me and my family, for better or worse. It is home. Our schools are anchoring our community. I went to Farragut Elementary School, Williams Middle, and then Beaumont High School, and all three of those schools are closed. It was a feeder pattern. That's the pattern that you followed. And the conversation is looming in the background about closing more schools, and we need to stop that conversation. But one of the things that I'm hearing, and I heard Ms. Jamala talk about that Team 4 plan, and it stirs me up every time. And I'm wondering, and I want to put this question out there to everybody in the space: what can we do? Is there any recourse that we can have? Can we go back? Can we, how much disinvestment actually happened? Does anybody have that number? Can we ask for that? Can we demand that? Can we bring a suit against the city for disinvesting in our communities, and then use those funds to start the redevelopment on our own as a group, as a community? Is there any type of action that could be taken along those lines to really help us push the north side forward?
Want me to go first? Want to take it? Thank you. That's a great question. I personally think that the Team 4 plan, technically, I don't believe this is the case, but it's never really correctly been mentioned that it did happen, right? I believe it did. But I firmly believe that, yes, ma'am. But it's still technically disputable, right? I don't necessarily I believe it happened. I'm firmly behind that decision that it did happen. But I don't think from a law perspective, a legal perspective, how you can make a claim to that. But I also want to ask a friend of mine who is in politics. I want to ask you just quickly, if you don't mind, Mr. Butler. So that's just a disclaimer. Mike is a personal friend of mine, and I would love for him to give his answer on this question.
There we go. There are a couple ways. You asked a great question. One about the amount of money that was spent. If there's a tabulation, I don't know any. I would love to find out, and I would love to resource my office to find that out. But I bet there may have been some study in the past, and I put it on a note already in my phone to look that up. Yeah, I would love to learn the number. The second thing, from a legal perspective, I think you might be right, but what they say, nothing beats a failure but a try. I think that I mean, I'm sure there are some pro bono lawyers that would love to help us navigate through that. If not the T4 plan, I'm sure there are some other. I'm absolutely sure there's some other legal documents that showcase the depletion of that may be in some kind of city planning that could showcase the depletion of Grove City. There's a good book about this right now called Bad Law by I just read it, I can't remember the name of the author. He curses a lot too, Antoine, by the way. Bad Law by I don't want to say the wrong name, man. Bad Law. And it talks about how a lot of these laws were created before the Civil Rights Act, and that now there are times where you can be able to where some of those practices continue after the Civil Rights Act, and there may be a legal standing for some of the red line that happens in St. Louis. The last thing that you mentioned is what we can do. So there's a lot of funding available right now in St. Louis City, more than ever before. There's still over $250 million of RAM settlement funding in city coffers that's collecting interest every day, that is sitting there every day while our people are sitting in their vacant homes, or sitting and wondering how they're going to rebuild their homes. I think the first thing we should do is demand community schools money for our schools, and demand that most of the $250 million goes towards rebuilding North St. Louis, that all of it goes towards rebuilding St. Louis and rebuilding our schools. That's what we can do today. There's still some ARPA money that's left over, that some of that goes towards schools. There's a small program that kind of goes on with community schools in the Department of Health. There's a lot of things we can do. We can organize around that. AFP is already organized around that. OBS is already organized around that. Access St. Louis is already organizing around. There's a lot of political homes you could be a part of that I have loved to support. I've supported over the years. Let's get it going. Wake up. Let's wake up, like Ray said. Yeah. So there's a lot you can do. Thank you, Michael.
I just want to quickly say that they will tell you that the T4 was never implemented. You heard the guy say that it was never really implemented. So you don't want to go by the name. You want to go by the consequences. Mm-hmm. The consequences are clear. The depletion happened. And if there is research, it's probably not as comprehensive as it could be, but a drive through North St. Louis tells it all. So I would be curious as to who could do the tabulation of what it meant to lose population, when we talk about it in terms of lost revenue, but never like what happens when a family has to pull up because they can't stay, and where do they end up? This whole notion about the loss and what it means, I can't help but think about reparations, because some of this, many cities are using that as part of their call for reparations. And I'm pretty sure it was in the commission report that the Reparations Commission did here in St. Louis. So that's another avenue to approach it. Like, we no longer have neighborhoods because of a racist policy that destroyed that. And so, again, I'm like you, Mike, there's lots of ways to do this. I'm even thinking about the trip that Local 420 sponsored to Chicago to look at the way that they are building out a community based on a school being the center. To me, it's got to be a starting point. There's got to be a vision of what you want that neighborhood to look like, and not just, scattering this, that, and the other, and you got a store 4 blocks here, you got this. We need to think about what does a neighborhood look like? We used to know. And we used to have a neighbor that we could talk to, sit on the porch and talk stuff. We know what a community looks like, and this ain't it. So let's start thinking about the vision. And then we take a plan with folks like Antoine to talk about like the real estate piece, what's left that has value. So that's a segue to my question about why did you choose Harrison School? And I asked that because Harrison had been vacant for many years. And when those schools are vacant like that, it's lots of both nature has taken its course, but also vandalism has taken its course, which means it's going to be a lot more money to be invested to get it up to do anything. So does it have a personal piece in your heart? And why did you choose Harrison?
Yes, absolutely. Personally, I think that again, education is the bloodline of the community. So when the owner of the Harrison School reached out to me to ask me to sell it, I wanted to make sure I paint that picture. It's devastating to see it in person. If you go in the basement of the Harrison School, there's all these records that are still. To me, that is historical facts. That's historical things that should be preserved. That school is on the National Register of Historic Places. So, but the impact when you go in there, to me, that's the replica, or that's like just schools in general. That is a good, I say good at the same time, but that is, to me, in my personal opinion, the best representation of what happened in St. Louis. It starts with that school. It starts with the real estate properties surrounding the area. We talked about amenities, right? What do you have right now that's going on in North St. Louis? They call it a food desert, right? When you drive around the Harrison School, there aren't any places to get food. There's no convenience. Well, you may have a couple, but there's nothing that will spur a type of investment of someone who want to live there in terms of resources. And I thought that had the greatest impact on what happened was starting from school and going on. And you can definitely see the impact if you were to do a radius around the school of what has been, what it was and what it is now. The area, I'm sure as you know, has a ton of beautiful architecture, right? In my personal opinion, I think North St. Louis City, from a real estate perspective, has better architecture than South City. But you don't see it. What do you see? You see the broken windows. You see the things that promoted to the media that don't necessarily show the beauty. And I chose it to highlight it. I chose San Francisco for that reason. That's me.
Good evening. My name is Velma Bailey. Thank you for coming.
Hi.
I appreciate this opportunity. I've been thankful to God to be alive for at least 7 decades, and I appreciate being here tonight. But, you know, most of my life I've been traumatized by the ill effects of the behavior that happened to me in the St. Louis Public School District. Every year of my life, they transferred me to a different school outside of my neighborhood, always in South St. Louis, or either at one time, Baden was a German community. They sent us there. And when we were waiting to get into school, they would have the police come in the mornings at Baden School because there were a lot of white people standing out there screaming at us, cussing at us, and spitting on us. And they told us all we could do was walk through there and go to school. They were calling us names and all kinds of things I had never heard. I was only in the 3rd grade, but I got dislocated from my home at 1226 Holdenwood. It was a very nice home. We had a nice community. We were at Hempstead School. It got overcrowded. The school district leased space in St. Paul Church. Some of us went to school in the church basement. But then they built Cook School. We were also excited we were going to get to go to the new school. And then they dislocated us. They moved us and we had to walk 13 blocks to school, even though we were 2 blocks away from Columbia School. Well, they kept messing with our mind. I know a couple of people that have law degrees that they put in special ed classrooms. Black males. The St. Louis Public School District may be one place where we need to start holding people accountable. They're going to spend $6 million and tear down schools instead of doing something like similar to what you're doing. Trying to find some investors, trying to find some homes. Maybe 25% of the kids are homeless in that school district. They're not reaching out. They're not doing anything to try to house them. But to me, if the city of St. Louis could build an NGA, they found money out of money out of money, but they can't build a grocery store to supply proper nutrition for people. There's something going on there. And some of us that supported elected officials, we expect them to be accountable. So all those people that were running behind this last person, supporting them, where are they trying to get resources for our community? Our people are suffering. They're building all kinds of houses for apartments over in South St. Louis. They're stacking people on top of people, building 1 and 2 bedrooms, but they're not providing the resources that we need in North St. Louis. I understand they're getting ready to lose their ARPA money because they haven't spent it. They're going to keep the Rams money, I guess, until they get ready to do what they're going to do for themselves and not for us. But when do people start speaking out? When do you say something? And I just want to make this one last point, and I try to make it wherever I go. For the last 15 years, I've been volunteering my life, having a summer day camp for children in Fairground Park. We moved from 3 weeks to 10 weeks. We work with children from 8 to 6. And do you know the St. Louis Public School District just shortened their summer school from 6 weeks to 4 weeks? Nobody on the board said anything. Nobody in this community said anything. We were open both years of the COVID with volunteers. We've had this camp. It's going to be our 15th year. And do you know the reason they said that they shortened the summer school? They said the kids stopped coming to school. You paying people to educate children and they can't motivate them to come to school with all of that money, all of those degrees. It's a shame. But I want to say this, they won't let our children participate in our swimming program. And we know the disinvestment and what happens to children when they don't learn how to swim, especially Black children. They're drowning at 7 times the rate of their white peers. And the recommendation is that they get swimming lessons. But our school district won't support us doing that. The children all over this, DESE has a curriculum for swimming. There are children all over the state swimming during the school day. They won't even let us pick the kids up, take them to a swimming pool that's certified by the Red Cross with certified water safety instructors. We're spending our own money. We didn't ask them for a dime. We're buying the kids swimwear. We're paying for the transportation. We pay staff members to stay there so the kids are safe and they have a trusted person with them. And these people won't even let us do that. So when you guys start the suits, I like to find out how we can sue the school district for not allowing the children to have equitable access to the same resources for their education and after-school programming that they have in the rest of the state. Yes, ma'am. Well, you know what? You don't have to tell me how to sue. You know what? I worked for those people for 26 years, and I told you I just volunteered for 15 years of my life. Nobody's paid me anything. So this is what I want to say. Every time you get out,
No, I don't. No, I want to ask you for a second. So, Ms. Becky, once again, I'm asking you, I'm asking you for a space. I'm asking you to create a space where we can have those conversations, because I support you, you know I do. So no need to act like I'm telling you I'm not after that. I understand your program and I love it. So I'm asking you to connect with me so we can create a space so that we can get the word out.
sir,
Thank you, Ms.
I've been going to the board meetings for almost a year and a half. Every year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowman, can you bring some?
Yeah, I'll be very quick. First of all, I want to say thank you all for hosting the CA as well. Yeah, I know. Testing. Okay. John Bowman, President of NAACP St. Louis County. My question is, it's just my thought, I'm sure we've heard this before. When are we going to center our thoughts around funding schools on children's needs opposed to property values? Because as we know nostalgically, the population depletion will not get us there, right? If we depend on property values. And speaking of lawsuits, I agree with everybody who mentioned that, because at the NAACP, we're suing everybody, especially in this administration. I just finished up a lawsuit because Pam Bundy dismantled the division of the Civil Rights Division. So lawsuit is the path in one way, but we cannot continue to ignore how the imbalance occurs because of the formula itself. And these school districts are underfunded. And even with the formula, they're denying public schools, St. Louis Public School, of its proper funding. So that's just my thought. Our children's needs. Yeah. Okay. Children's needs, not property values. Yeah.
He's gonna speak, he's gonna comment today, and you will have 60 seconds. Because we got time to take up this. So go ahead.
Yep, I agree with you. I think there's my personal opinion, I think the formula does need to change. Absolutely. I'm an optimistic person. I think it's going to take a lot of action and effort for that to happen. I know that's something that I don't think can happen overnight. I think it starts with predatory lending, redlining, education, of course, for the kids, all those different things. I think the formula does need to change. I agree. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. My name is, so thank you for all that you're doing. And President Jackson, thank you all. My name is Pamela Westbrook Hodge, and I am the first congressional district representative for this area on the Missouri State Board of Education. And I am the only board member on the Missouri State Board of Education that voted no to unaccredit SLPS. I won't, and I just want to go on record and say that there was no academic justification for that move. And MSIP 6 on page 114 gives the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education a litany of interventions when the issues in a school district are operational and or governance in nature. And the board chose not to leverage those interventions, but to instead send a signal, send a message by lowering accreditation. And I did not support that. So I want to say that. The second thing I want to say is that I am also the board member that pushed for modernization of the school funding formula. And through a lot of advocacy work behind the scenes, our governor created a school funding modernization task force, and I am a member of that task force. I am also, so we have until December 31st to come up with some recommendations to overhaul the formula. I want to be very candid and pragmatic with everyone here that the way that we fund schools in this country, by definition, is inequitable, and it will produce inequitable outcomes, because anytime you use real estate assets that have been damaged from redlining and segregation, what else do you think you're going to get other than inequitable funding flows to schools? This is what you get. And so that design is intentional. And for those who may not know your history, the funding formulas based in property taxes proliferated after Brown versus Board of Education and the white flight that ensued. So all of these structural impediments are very intentional. And they are the historic root cause of the mess that we find ourselves in today. So our battle, our challenge with modernizing the formula is this. We have a property tax funding system in this state that is highly variable, and we don't do it the same in every taxing county. And so because of that variability, trying to put a formula on top of that taxation system is like attaching, and it is very complicated for that reason. So my ask of all of you is, one, your patience, two, your accountability. Tune into those meetings, because we're formulating recommendations, and you can listen in on these meetings. So hold the state accountable, hold this task force accountable, and be a part of keeping us honest. But it is not going to be easy. I'm an auditor by profession and certification, and I produce a litany of treasure trove of issues so that everybody will be clear about what is wrong with our formula. And I want this body to know that what informed that listing of issues was the work that this group did on TIFs and tax abatements and how damaging they are to the funding of schools. And so that work was a direct input into the issues that were formulated around what's wrong with the way that we fund schools. So I just wanted to say, I am with SLPS. I'm outnumbered. I'm just going to be honest. And because my term is up on June 30th, I'm just going to say what I think. So listen to those State Board of Education meetings. That is important so that everybody stays attuned and understand the climate and where we are. The last thing I want to say is this. My family migrated from enslavement from Central Missouri to St. Louis in 1870. The first Missourians that came here long before the Great Migration from the South were rural Missourians seeking safety from violence, racial violence, post-emancipation from rural Missouri to St. Louis. So I want us to remember our early neighborhoods in this city were created by Missourians, Black Missourians born in the state who were seeking safety from rural Missouri and expulsion. And I am the descendant of those people. And a bunch of you are probably too. So thank you for allowing me an opportunity. I was invited here by President Cummings, and I see he is in the hospital. And so I thank him for inviting me. But I just wanted to convey my support and let you know I was here.
Thank you. Well, again, I want to say thank you to President Cummings too. Thank you to Mrs. CJ for having us here. I enjoyed the conversation with everyone, and I am being optimistic. I think it starts there. You have to be optimistic to seek change, but also you have to do action. As Mrs. Rogers said, you got to do your research. You know, and it starts there. I've learned some things tonight that I didn't know. I think everyone here could probably say they learned something. So now let's put some action behind it. Thank you all for coming.
Absolutely. We are out of time. We thank you, Ms. Westbrook. She did take our action time, but we glad that we were able to hear her voice. We appreciate you. And we also know that a lot of us don't know what 60 seconds is, but it's okay as long as we're trying. I know, and a lot of people don't understand, like you see, look at everybody coming to the door. They don't understand that it's a time limit. Like we paid previously for a time and they want us out of here at a certain time. So real quick, your ask is to show up, stay engaged, use your voice to hold elected officials accountable, reject the narratives and stop blaming educators and students, support your public schools and your neighborhoods, vote with your public education in mind, and stand with the educators. What is your church, your job, or your business, or in your community doing for the youth that attend their public schools? a lot of them are sitting on the boards with these privatizers and they helping us do nothing but hurting us. So if you don't know who your pastor is or your leader, who they really are, have a conversation with them. As we know, St. Louis Public Schools don't need the same thing Parkway North, Lindbergh, and Winsfield need. So once we start holding them accountable and making them answer to us and our babies, we will be able to move forward. I'll forget the rest. Move on to meet us next Wednesday. So hold on. Whoa. Let me let Gloria. It's too many. Tuesday. Okay, I got the rest. Tuesday, February the 24th. Meet us at 5:30 a.m. at 801 North 11th Street. That is the home of St. Louis Public Schools. If you do not want to meet us there, meet us in Jefferson City at 8:45 a.m. at the Capitol. So we can go tell these people who we elected and those that we didn't, those that we will never elect, what we need in our communities. Shout out to the Parent Action Council, Gloria and Tracy, for always consistently having these educational trips. Once again, we want to thank Miss Pamela Westbrook. She is amazing. We want to thank Mr. Antoine Lawrence and Miss Jamala Rogers for being in the spaces. Thank you all for coming. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email them, call the local 420 office. But I know you all like to talk, but I will start cutting lights off on you. Miss Carolyn is gone, so I'll go ahead and end with our prayer. Lord, as we leave from this space, we ask you to protect all of those that are coming and going. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for the open minds. Thank you for the individuals that care about our community. Thank you for those that have been fighting for multiple years and have not given up as they were teaching us the way to go. I ask you to continue to give them patience, continue to give them strength, and continue to wrap your loving arms around them and protect us here and far, together and apart. In Jesus' name, amen. Jay.
Hey.
He's not. Sounds like too much. Who's Jay? Ready? This yours?
Oh, I'm trying to make sure I close it.
Oh, sorry.
Just trying to make sure. I can cover the phone, man. Did you close the Zoom?
Might have been closed. My phone did. Oh, it's right there.
Okay. Yeah, okay.